Hope everybody had a good holiday. We are in week 4, and just a quick reminder, as we know, this is a short week. Class ends on Thursday at 10 p.m. 9:59 to be exact. So please, please, please make sure that you have everything in that you need to have in. All assignments, I gave a little bit of a grace period for week 2, week 3, week 4, everything. All assignments must be in by Wednesday. By Wednesday, no exception. On Thursday, you'll have your final project and your final. So you have enough going on, right? You don't need any other drama. So all assignments will close down on Wednesday. That's a really tight schedule, in part because all grades have to be in Friday night anyway. So I don't even have any wiggle room on that. So just so you guys know. So please, 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 the final opened on Friday. So actually, all of week 4 opened on Friday. So you have access to week 4. Try to, get those things in as soon as you can. We're going to talk really briefly about business writing because you do have 2 assignments that are from Thursday. They were the mock interview, thank you letter, and then your career plan step 2. Normally that is due on Thursday, but because of the holiday, we moved it to today. So I'm just going to spend a couple of minutes talking about business writing because tomorrow I'll have to hit up two chapters. But most of us hopefully have written some type of letter before, whether it's or at least an email, right? Some type of correspondence, whether it's a cover letter, thank you letter, a email, engaging with someone in business. We've all done that in some capacity. So when you interview, right? After you interview, Nelson, you have a question?
Yeah, on my final exam, it says available from June 13th to June 19th. I can't access it.
Un momento, por favor. Hold on, guys. Let me, I'll double check that. Thank you, Nelson.
Thank you. Yeah, I looked at it on Friday. I was like, final, this is only week 3. Wait, why is it closed?
All right, let me, I could have, my fat fingers. I have a touch screen. I don't know how many people have touch screens, and I have a tendency to touch screen as opposed to just picking it up. No, your final says that. This one says it was available on the 20th and it closes on the 26th. Are you sure you're not looking at the midterm?
Yeah, can I show you my screen?
We're being recorded. Let's talk about it afterwards. Yeah, because this is being recorded. I don't want
no problem.
The students that are going to watch the recording to get confused. But yeah, I'm looking out. We can look at it after the recording. Okay. Thank you for telling me that. I'll double check it when we get done. All right. So let me go back here. All right. So when we talk about business letters, most of us know that there is, a standard format. Believe it or not, maybe 20 years ago, I shouldn't say a couple of years ago, we only used Times New Roman font 12. Like that was the thing. Times New Roman font 12. Anything you write was Times New Roman font 12. I know that's like, what? Why are we so specific in that? But that's what it was. If you did it in school, if you did it at work, Times New Roman. Then it moved to Arial or Calibri font 11. I'm like, when did it go down? But now that is the standard. So just so you know, most people want you to write in or type in certain types of font. certain size font. That is the thing. Of course, we're still left justifying. We're still indenting our paragraphs, thank God, and we're still single spacing. But just know that is standard, right? So when you're writing anything, please make sure you follow those standards. When it comes to a business letter, well, I won't say similar to your resume, but every business letter should start with your information at the top, followed by, and that is what we consider the heading, followed by a date, then the address or information to who you're speaking to should follow the date. You should have some type of greeting, hello, hi, good evening, good afternoon, whatever. The body of your paragraph, the introduction, the body, the closing, and sign off. Now the salutation, some people call it complimentary close, however you want to do it. But if you can master writing a letter, you can master writing anything. What do you mean by that? Yeah, I'm telling you, papers, essays, whatever it is, it's all the same. You always start with some type of introduction. You get into the body, you close it out. Every paragraph you write, introduction, details, close it out. So everything that you write, whether it's an essay or one paragraph, always starts with an introduction, details, close it out. If you can get into the habit of writing like that, you could write anything. So even a letter, hi, my name is, an introduction should always be very similar to your pitch. Why are you talking to me, right? So an elevator pitch always starts with some type of introduction. Then what? You get into the point and then you close it out. That's how we communicate. So I always like to say, if people understand the mechanics, and I'm a very logistical person, so I always like to look at things in parts. But if you can understand the mechanics of how something is done, then it's easier to know how to do it, right? And so those are the parts: introduction, body, closing, introduction, body, closing, anything that you write. So that's all the business letter chapter is talking about. And this is just an example of that. We want you to write a thank you email to career services, the person that interviewed you. Now, hopefully you guys at least got their contact information. Did anybody give me a thumbs up if you remember to get the contact information, or you already had the contact information, the person that's interviewing you? Okay, very good, very good. Yeah, that's very important, because when you're on a real interview, I mean, we're nervous, so sometimes we forget to do that. Now a lot of times, what you may see happen very commonly is when before you start a meeting, people start passing out their business cards. Like that's like a thing, right? So when you have an interview, they should did any career services person give you their business card? Give me a thumbs up if the career service gave you their business card. I'm just curious. Or they're like, oh, okay, we got one business. Yeah, you can always tell someone that's been trained, in a certain way, because they know to do that. So most, you start a meeting, you pass out business cards. Yeah, that's how they do it. Anyway, so the thank you letter is very similar to an email, with the exception of when you do a letter, clearly you're going to have a heading at the top. It's going to have your name, your contact information, and then it looks, pretty much the same. The date, who you're talking to, that greeting, introductory paragraph, body, closing, and then some type of salutation. Best regards, warm wishes, warm regards, whatever you want to say, right? Now, so the only difference with your email is that you don't put your information at the top. Where do you put it? You put it at the bottom. That's the only difference, right? So you're going to have their email address, the career services person, who their name is, thank them for the opportunity to interview with them. One key thing I always tell people, write about something that they said. I told you last week, one cool way to stand out and to let the person know that you were listening is just to recap something that they told you. Oh, thank you so much. Miss Tiller, for letting me know, when the window was to apply for that new certification. That's really helpful. One thing that they told you that will make you be remembered, and it'll make your interview stand out to them, because they'll be like, oh my God, Cynthia was listening to what I had to say. People love that, right? And then, close it out with some type of call to action. And that should always be, I look forward to hearing from you soon. As we discussed, I'll follow up with you on Tuesday, whatever, you guys discuss. If you haven't discussed anything for next steps, then it's always going to be, I look forward to hearing from you soon. I look forward to working with you if it's career services. I look forward to following up with you next month about opportunities before I graduate. Some type of salutation. And then you do some type of closing paragraph, and then you do your salutation. Does that make sense? Pretty simple stuff. But again, once you understand the mechanics of it, you can pretty much write anything. All right. So how are you going to turn this in? So what you're going to do is, once you hit submit, please, I know some people are sending me copies of the email without hitting submit, but whatever, I don't really care. But the main thing is, send it to them and then copy the email and put it in the assignment. This is how you get credit for this assignment. All right. You get credit for this assignment by submitting it to the career services, copying the email, and putting it in the assignment. Does everyone understand? Really important stuff, but really simple, right? All right. Are there other business letters? Yeah, you can get letters when you're accepting the job, letters when you're declining the position. If you are going to get multiple offers, some of you will with your, wonderful selves. Make sure that you are declining an opportunity. Don't just be like, I got a job already. No, because you never know. Like I said, your industry is very small, my friends. You never know when that opportunity may need to come back around. It could be when you're trying to get promoted. You want to start networking. So if both companies want you, make sure you send a wonderful thank you letter declining that position, because whether that opportunity comes up again 2 years from now, 1 year from now, maybe you don't like the company that you're at and you want to pick up that job. You never know. Don't burn bridges in your industry, because your industry is very small, especially for those of you that don't plan on moving anywhere. You don't want to burn those bridges. All right. I unfortunately know of people that have really burnt bridges, and it's very difficult for them to find a job. I know of this one person that was an educator, and the person had worked so many different places, but the person was very like, and I'm gonna blame it on her being militant, because I'm militant too. She's a very militant person, and sometimes us military folks, we can be a little stoic. We're a little, stern. Not civilians don't always appreciate that. And so, where she went, she was very good, very, very good at the work, but that personality type just doesn't work everywhere. And the person had worked everywhere. She worked in so many different schools. And to the point to where there was nowhere else for her to go. And I'm like, oh my goodness, my friend, something's got to change, right? Because there's only so many schools available in the area that she was in. So I'm like, you got to make a change, right? You don't want that drama. It does happen. And then, word gets out, oh, you're this type of person, you're that type of person. People don't want to work with you. So, your reputation is important in your industry. All right. Now, once you get into your business, of course, you're going to be writing letters to suppliers, replying to customers, all of that. So it's very important for you to know how to write. Remember, you're not writing on behalf of yourself. You're writing on behalf of the company that has hired you. So you don't want that drama, right? So it's very important for you to know how to write effectively, right? Because it's a reflection on the industry that you're in as well. When you are offered a job, right? Typically, it's going to come in some type of email format, and you need to respond, right? So, even if they say, if you want the job, download this, offer letter, sign it, and send it back. That's typically how it goes. But also you want to send some type of formal response. In the book, it gives an example here. It says, "Hi, dear Miss Boswell, I'm delighted to accept the position. This person actually must have gotten like a verbal, which is, I'll talk about that in a second, but a verbal acceptance. And so she's writing back saying she's looking forward to receiving the formal acceptance, right? And here she actually wrote something from the interview. I will wait to hear from Mark for further instructions, blah, blah, blah. Now, if you do not have a formal offer letter that you have signed, you do not have a job. Don't let anyone, I've had people verbally tell me, oh, yeah, we want to hire you so bad. We were so excited to have you. And then I never heard from them. I've even signed an offer letter and then didn't get the job. People, they're not as ethical as they used to be back in the day, but it happens, right? So I always tell people, until you start, you don't have a job. I don't care what people tell you, right? But typically, after you receive an offer letter email, you still need to respond back to the HR department. You're going to attach the email, and then still, do the same type of thank you for the letter. I look forward to starting. If you have any final comments with the HR person there, and then, send the communication. All of this chapter is just talking about just making sure that you are writing properly, no matter what you are responding to. Same thing if you're declining an offer. Again, be professional. They may come back around. That's all this chapter is talking about. That's it. Didn't want to rush through that, but this is a short week. I know you guys have things to do. Actually, I have a few people that are having to do their interviews late. So I want to give you back as much time as possible. Please remember, and Nelson, I'll get to your issue in a minute, but the final should be open, and I'll look at this technical issue in a second. So you can do it early. You don't have to wait until Thursday, but you don't feel pressure either, right? You have until Thursday at 9:59 to do it, right? Now, technically, you guys are the morning crew, so you should be doing yours early because we have a night crew. So please don't wait till the evening, because then, if you have any technical glitches, the campus is going to say, well, you should have done yours by 12:30 anyway, because technically you're the morning class, but we're not going to close it out. It's going to be open for everyone. So try to get that done as soon as possible. All right. Here's your participation question. Just want to know, what is your biggest hurdle or obstacle that you feel will keep you from achieving what you want? And it doesn't have to be something negative, guys. I mean, everybody has obstacles, whether it could be, being a single parent, or, having some type of other physical or mental challenge, or, it could just be, I live in a rural environment. There's not a lot of jobs around there. Go ahead, Ayana.
Yeah, sorry. It's more of a personal question.
Okay. We're about to wrap up in a sec.
Okay, thank you.
So whatever it is, and how will you overcome it? That's very important. In career planning, we're always wanting you to be, proactive and like, okay, I know I have this issue. How am I going to overcome it? One of the things that I tend to do is I always do option A, B, C, or D. I'm in a situation very similar to a lot of people, as as I was telling some of you, I was a federal worker, and, and I was a remote federal worker, and they canceled the position. And now we just got word that the position is no longer even remote, so Donald Trump's like, you come to Virginia, you don't have a job, and that ain't happening, right? So I guess I'm out of work, but for that type of consulting anyway, right? So I got to think about plan A, plan B, plan C. And so where I'm at with it right now, I'm like, okay, I already know I need to recalibrate, right? So and I haven't, fully, done that exercise yet. But one thing that I'm going to do, and I'm telling you this because this is in real time. I'm not telling you to do something that, people, with my background does not do. I'm going to sit down. I normally use an Excel spreadsheet. That's how my mind works. And I'm going to list out my opportunities. I can do this, I can do this, I can do this. I'm going to list the pros and cons. I'm going to list the time frame. I'm going to list the financial cost and benefit. You know, if I have to invest in more education, do I have to move? Do I have to do that? And then I'm going to see which one works better for what I need to do. Like I do that exercise in my career, I do it in my money, I do it with everything. So I'm telling you, it works. I've been doing it for years. It's how my brain works anyway. So, you know, everyone has to figure out, you know, okay, how am I going to get around this obstacle? How am I going to continue to move forward in my career? It doesn't mean change your career plan, right? It just means that, okay, how am I gonna make it happen, right? So that is you know, very common for everyone. You know, like my goal was to be a patent attorney. I mean, that is my goal, to be a patent attorney. And I was going to go work for the USPTO office. And then there's like, no, you're not. So I'm like, okay, well, I don't know what I'm gonna do now. But, you know, my goal is still to be a patent attorney. I'm not going to let that stop me, but my road to getting there now has to change. And so I have to figure that out. So I'm just telling you, you know, everybody has to do it. So don't think that this is just something we're telling you to do that we don't physically do. Those of us that have been in our careers for many, many years. All right. That's participation question. Any questions on that? All right. So what I'm going to do, if you guys don't have any questions, hold on, Ayana. I'm going to stop the recording now because I know Nelson wants to show me something. And then Ayana will get to your question.